Hello GCSE Plus Year 10 students. This is Mr. Wilm speaking. You may remember I met you when you first came to King's in January. I hope you're well, and I hope your family are well too, and your friends also from school. So this week's challenge is about voting and democracy, and it's based on a real phenomenon. So this is the results of the 1951 general election, just a little bit of history here. You can see that the Labour Party, led by Clement Attlee, won 13,948,000 votes, and the Conservative Party, led by Churchill, won 13,717,000 votes. But the Conservatives won more seats, more constituencies than the Labour Party did, and so the Conservative Party was elected as the party of power and Winston Churchill became Prime Minister again. This happened more recently in 2016 in the US presidential election. So candidate Clinton, as she was then, won 62 million and a half, so 62,500,000 votes, and candidate Trump won 61,200,000 votes. So Clinton won about 1,300,000 more votes than Trump did, but Trump won more states than Clinton did, and so candidate Trump became President Trump. So the challenge asks you to think about how this might happen. And it gave you the situation of 5 constituencies with 99, 199, 299, 399, 499 voters and 4 parties, which I've called A, B, C and D. Actually, I've started with just 2 parties because that's a really good idea with a mathematical problem. When you're exploring a mathematical problem, we're trying to work out sort of what is going on. First of all, simplify it, make it less complicated. So rather than having 4 parties, I started off with 2 parties. Now what might happen is that might happen. So a 50-49 split for party A, party B, 199 split for party A, party B, 150, 149 split for A and B. And then in the last 2 constituencies, B has a landslide and wins by a huge margin each time. But overall, party A has won those 3 constituencies and party B has won those 2 constituencies. And so like in the 1951 general election, Party A wins more seats with fewer votes and then goes on to form the government. So the leader of Party A will be the Prime Minister. So let's think about having 4 constituencies now. And this was my first playing around suggestion for an answer. I thought 199 divided by 4 is 25, it's about 25 each, that won't quite work, so let's make it 24 each, which adds up to 72, and then A wins with 27. And similarly, essentially it's 50 each. That won't work though, because 50, 50, 50, that'd be 49, so let's make those 49, 147 in total, and so A is going to win with 52, and then similarly with the 3rd constituency there. And so we could have that situation where A wins those 3 constituencies, B wins those 2. B clearly has far more votes than A has, but only got 2 seats. And so Party A becomes the party of government. The leader of Party A becomes the Prime Minister. Now, doing all this adding up was quite hard work, so I thought what I want is a spreadsheet. So I made a quick spreadsheet using Excel. Other spreadsheet products are available, of course. The numbers I just type in by hand by using the keyboard. These values here are worked out automatically. So this is a sum function. So this sums those 4 numbers. This is the sum of those 4 numbers. This is the sum of those 4 numbers. I'm just checking that I've got the right numbers here, that they add up to what they're supposed to add up to. These are the interesting numbers. These are the sums of the rows. So A has got this total number of votes. B has got this total number of votes. C and D. So that was my first exploration. But then I thought there's quite a gap there. 27, 24, can I narrow it? Could I make it 26, 25, 51, 50, 76, 75? And so I can, and that just reduces A's votes slightly to 153. So notice that B has got 1,000 votes. That's more than 6 times what A has got, and yet B has only got 2 constituencies, A has only got 3 constituencies, and so A goes on to win power. A becomes the party of government with its slight majority in terms of seats, despite a massive minority in terms of number of votes. But actually, of course, it could be even more extreme than this, because what it could be is that A only wins 2 constituencies and B and C and D win 1 each. So something like that, for example. So A has only got 77 votes, D has got 570. If you call that 80 and you call that 560, D has got 7 times the number of votes that A has got, but overall A wins power A becomes the Prime Minister because A has got 2 constituencies as opposed to 1 each for all the other parties. Now, the actual challenge asks us to think about having 10 parties and an unknown number of constituencies, n constituencies. So I decided just to build up to that. But I also noticed that in my sort of solution here, my optimal solution here, A has got 26, which is 1 more than a quarter of 100, which is 1 more than 99. B has got 51, which is 1 more than a quarter of 200, and 200 is 1 more than 199. So A seems to be winning 1 more than a quarter of the total number of seats, total number of voters, plus 1. Let's bear that in mind. So with my 5 voters, I tried the same sort of thing. I had A winning 2 constituencies, and B and C and D all, and now E, all winning 1. But again, a bit of a gap there, so I tweaked that and got 2120, just checking they're adding up to the right amount. But still, A's got 2 seats, B, C, D, E have got 1 seat. But again, notice A has got 1 more than, now it's a fifth of 100. A has got 1 more than a fifth of 200. What about if we have more constituencies? So now A has got 1 more than a fifth of 300. So is there a pattern here? Is there a rule here? Am I right, and can I prove it? What happens with 10 seats? Well, again, I played around my spreadsheet, putting numbers in, changing things around, making all these balance, and I noticed that again, A has now got a tenth, because there are 10 parties, 1 more than a tenth of 100. A has got 1 more than a tenth of 200. But I was also wondering how many more constituencies would I have before A had to have 3 rather than 2, or indeed 4 rather than 3. So is there a way of predicting how many constituencies there are, and then how many A will have, given how many there are, how many A will have to go on and be the winner? So the questions I'm thinking about are, is it true that party A always gets 99 plus 1 divided by the number of parties in the first column, 199 plus 1 divided by the number of parties in the second column, etc. I've seen that in those cases so far. Now that can't be true, because there are 6 parties, 100 doesn't divide by 6. If there are 7 parties, 100 doesn't divide by 7 to give a whole number. So what happens in those situations? And then is there a way of working out how many constituencies A needs to win to go on and be the overall winner, but with the smallest number? So not making the 3-2 split that I made first for 5, but the 2-1-1 split. So if I had, say, 6 parties and 17 constituencies, is there a way of working out how many of those must go to party A, so that party A can then go on and win power, become the prime ministerial party, with the smallest number of constituencies? So there are some things you can think about, as well as the original problem. Email your answers and, of course, your reasoning to the usual address. And bear in mind, this is based on a real situation. The democratic situation that we have of first past the post, everyone has a vote, doesn't necessarily lead to what you might call the right outcome. Bye for now.